Here's some gems for you all. The habit loop involves 3 key stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the thing that triggers you or prompts you to take part in the habit.
Yeah, I think it's I wouldn't say controversial. I think people could easily disprove it.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is madness. Welcome back to another episode of Book Reviews with Ty and Fly. I go by Ty.
What's happening, Mr. Fly in the building? What's going on?
So this month we have got Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Hopefully you can see it there in the camera. It's not picking up the focus. There we go. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. This was actually a book recommended to me by a friend called Rick. So big up Rick. And today we're actually going to get in and talk about it. And before we do, I asked you this earlier. We had some technical issues. This is actually take 2 of this recording. But I asked Mr. Fly earlier, does he know anyone who's actually read this book and joined in the challenge this month? Because I know of someone who's really been enjoying it. And do you?
First things first, pick up that person, whoever they are. I don't know anyone that's joined the challenge this month, but I did post this book up on my socials and I got a lot of feedback. A lot of people that either read it before or they were like, oh, I want to read that book and stuff like that. So it definitely got a lot of people excited and interested. So it's quite intriguing, which was surprising to me because I hadn't heard of this book until the moment that I think Rick recommended to you when I was there. So I was surprised to know that it's quite a popular book. So
well, it's breaking the habit of being yourself. So it's all about changing your mindset and breaking the habit of your existing thought patterns. And it actually talks about, it's very sciencey at the beginning. It's kind of got 3 sections to it. And the first section is very sciencey, which bamboozled me at times. What did you take from it?
I quite liked that, to be honest with you. With me, this book, it reminded me very much of The Secret. So that's a book, obviously, I know it's a very popular book. You must have read it. I've read it a long time ago, and it seemed to me it was like the Secret, but with science, backed up by science. That's kind of what I got with this, about things like setting intentions and all that kind of stuff. So it was, we'll get into it more, but I didn't mind it. I actually quite liked that, to be fair. That was my favorite. The first maybe 7 chapters are the ones where it gets really into the science and explanations of reasons and talking about neurons and the brain, the way the brain works and whatnot. And I actually enjoyed that. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's The Secret, Secret 2.0. This was The Secret backed up with science, with actually real life stories. For those of you that have read The Secret, you'll understand a bit more about what we mean. But The Secret essentially is telling you to will things into existence. And for me, that book was a bit wishy-washy. Like, oh, if you think like this, then it will happen, with no real evidence. Whereas,
you know what?
Go on.
Sorry, no, because when I read The Secret, it was. I remember when I read it, and I remember what was going on in my life at the time, and it kind of, I liked it. I did enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to go back and read it now. Because that was a long time ago when I read it. Maybe even 10 years ago. So I mean, so it was. But I did like it. I like it. It was a bit wishy-washy, but I feel like this was a bit wishy-washy as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, I think you just said a key point there in terms of this book. Depending on where you are in your life, depends on how much benefit you're going to get from this book. Because I know for some people, depending on their life and their situation, this book is going to be life-changing. But for other people, it's going to be like, oh. Let's talk about it. So the first bit talks about science. And one of the things that I wrote down about science was, it was talking about atoms and the quantum field and quantum physics. And one of the things that interested me was how it talks about an atom is not solid. So everything is made up of atoms. An atom is not solid. And there is more of nothing energy in the atom than there is of actual something that makes any sense at all. which I found really interesting. And I found really interesting that particular point, that everything's made up of atoms, etc.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of sciencey things at the beginning that were quite interesting. What hit for you?
For me, my main thing was when I first read it with chapter 1, the quantum new. The main question when I was reading it, I was trying to find a definition of the quantum field, because he refers to it a lot, the quantum field, and what it was like for me. I was like, all right, trying to find what is the quantum field. If someone asks me, how do I explain to them what's the quantum field, so I can get an understanding of it. Out of all the text, one of the maybe most key or poignant ones that I found was at a subatomic level, energy responds to your mindful attention and becomes matter. How would your life change if you could direct the observer effect? So it's like, if you could affect the way that things around you are happening, the energy, so what you're putting out, you get back in, and that's kind of your quantum field. It's quite hard to put into words, but for me, that was like trying to define that and trying to get my head around that and saying, okay, do I agree with this? Do I not agree with this? I definitely agree with the whole kind of thing about the energy and that what that attracts, the energy that you're putting out, what that attracts, and that's essentially what the quantum field is, and then how you can influence or impact your quantum field, and then what that would lead you down the line. So that was I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think it kind of talks about the energy you put out is the energy you receive back. So if you're putting out negative energy, if your mind's always in that space, then that's the energy that you'll receive back. Whereas if you're putting out positive thoughts, positive words, whatever, ambitions, goals, then that's what you're going to receive back. And they actually use studies to back up these points and different examples, which I found quite interesting, because he talks about his daughter, and his daughter wanted to go to Italy for to visit 6 different parts of Italy, and I think she couldn't have the money or something. I'm going to get the story a bit wrong, but I'm going to get the point right. She wanted to go to Italy, and the author told her, visualize what it would look like and how you would feel, connect with your emotions, how you would feel, respond, think, if you actually went to Italy and did everything that you wanted to do. Really put yourself and put the energy out there that's what you want to go experience, the emotions that you'd get for doing the things that you want to do. So she did it, and she did it regularly, and then an offer come in for her to go to Italy, some kind of internship or something, and she was over the moon. She's like, yeah, Dad, like I've put it out there and it's great, like I can go to Italy. It wasn't quite what she wanted, but it got her halfway there. And he said, no, this isn't what you've asked for. You want to go there and get paid. You don't just want to go there and be a volunteer. You want to go there and get paid. So visualize again, keep doing it, but with more visualizing, more connecting. And she did it, and guess what? She got it. It came to her, and this was just an interesting story of how you can, in theory, will certain things to fruition, which can sound a bit far-fetched in some things, because me saying, oh yeah, I'm willing, I'm gonna be the next Jeff Bezos, it's like, how much willpower or how much visualization would it take for me to get there? So it's, I don't know, would you say it's controversial?
I wouldn't say it's controversial. No, I wouldn't say it's controversial. It's he describes that as, it's called wave patterns. So when you hold a clear, focused thoughts about your purpose, accompanied by your passion and emotional engagement, you are broadcasting a stronger electromagnetic signal that pulls you towards your potential, and the reality matches what you want. So that's what it's called, wave patterns. So, and I agree with that. I do, I think, but it's more than just, you have to really believe it. And like the key word there is emotional for me. You have to emotionally tap into that. It's not just, I'd like to, like you said, Jeff Bezos, I think if that was really your ambition, you'd have more chance of hitting it that way than just kind of throwing it out there, or I want to do this, I want to do that. I feel like any of your desires, the more emotionally charged up they are, and the more emotionally invested they are, the more likely it is to happen. And that's kind of me speaking from experience as well.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you. And then like another area where he talks about is regarding gratitude. So it's all kind of interlinked. So, you know, one thing which he said is like, with gratitude, that you need to be grateful as though you've already received what you're asking for.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's weird with this book here. This book was like interesting to me on so many levels, and it's like, I think a lot of it ties into what your belief system is, you know, because like with things like with prayer, I pray a lot, and then when it's prayer, it's like I might pray for something once and then I don't pray for it again, because for me to go back and start please, it's like I'm kind of questioning the power that I've already put out there with the first prayer. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like that with wave patterns or with even gratitude, it's like if you agree, it's like, yeah, I want to be Jeff Bezos. If that's the example we're using. Yep. And you live and you kind of really live that, or I want to do this, or whatever it is. So you have to kind of project your mind forward, and that's what he's talking about with his daughter when the whole thing was the whole Italy thing. And yeah, I think it's I wouldn't say controversial. I think people could easily disprove it.
Yeah.
Someone could come to you and give you 100 examples of when it hasn't worked. But at the end of the day, it's down to your belief system at the end of the day. And I feel like, you know, this book is very much about that spiritual sort of energy, but they bring it back to, you know, because you could just call it energy, but they bring it back to like molecules and atoms and subatomic, this kind of science. Yeah, they bring it back to science to try and back it up. I mean, this book had me at times and it lost me at times. That's the best way I could put it. Sometimes I was like, yeah. And other times I was like, I don't know. It's a hard one to get your head around.
One of the things that really interested me was about impacting the past, which blew my mind and made me question the legitimacy of, I guess, of the study that was done. Because, you know, in my head, you can't impact the past. What is done is done. You can't change. From a logical standing point, you know what I mean? You can't. That is, how can we're not time travelers. Anyway, there was a study that they did, and it showed about how the impact of prayer helped people get better in hospital. So there were lots of people in hospital, and people prayed for those people that were in hospital. There was a list of them. They prayed continuously so that they would get better and, you know, get out of hospital. And what they found was that their prayers worked. Those people in hospital recovered quicker and recovered faster than the other people in the hospital that wasn't prayed for. However, the people they were praying for weren't in hospital right now during that period they were praying. They were in hospital 4 to 10 years previously. So this had already happened, and they were praying for what had already happened. And the study showed that those who were prayed for came out of hospital quicker, and those who weren't prayed for took longer to come out of hospital. And I'm going to get the quote up here because it says, statistical analysis proved that this was far from coincidence. Because, you know, we could say, oh, that was just a coincidence. But according to the book, there was too much data for this to be a coincidence. And I thought, that is wild. I mean, I don't know if it was.
Remember, like, about 2 minutes ago when I said at some points it had me, at some points it lost me. Yeah. That was one of them parts, and I was like, because logically it doesn't make sense, you know? And then when I think with like my questioning mind on, my questioning hat on, it's like, yes, statistically it can be proven, but at the same time, stats can be manipulated. So I don't know the study, whatever. I mean, again, for me, that was a hard one to get my head around. I don't know if I fully believe that you can impact the past. I don't know if I believe that you can impact the past. I don't believe that you can impact the past. Really, I have to break it down on my head. But like, you know, I don't know.
That was interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and that's what this book is. The book's interesting. Like, it's interesting. I agree with a lot of the stuff it said. Stuff like that is hard to get my head around. I think you have to kind of be open to anything and you know, to be kind of conceptualized.
Yeah.
That would be something where I'd like to actually have a conversation with someone who fully believes that and like see their perspective and get more examples of it and whatever. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, right, if I think about my past experiences that have happened, how can I change those? Like, I don't. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying I can't change the future and whatever, and I'm not saying I can't impact the present, because I definitely can. But I just don't understand how I can change the past, if you get me. But I mean, whatever. I mean, if someone's read this book and they believe that, I'd love to chat to them.
I mean, it also talks about, you know, how our thoughts impact our outcomes, and I think this is a good point to touch on, because I'm definitely a firm believer on how our thoughts impact our outcomes, and I know that you are as well, because it's everything. I mean, it's definitely for my business. The way I think has elevated my business and pushed me forward. And I actually wanted to give or try and think of some examples of how, like, using energy and putting the energy out there to progress in life, or progress in sport, or progress in business. And I wondered if you had any specific examples that you can think of that have happened to you. I mean,
go on, what are you gonna say?
Yeah, no, I'll say, I'll let you think on it. But for me, definitely, because one of the things, you know, 7 years ago now, when I set up my business, I got the LinkedIn reminder today, or yesterday, sorry. 7 years ago when I set up my business, one of the things that I wanted to do was go and deliver, you know, talks to organizations, wellbeing talks, to help people live life better. And that was something that I'm passionate about and wanted to do. And now, 7 years later, that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm delivering these talks. So I think that was, for me, was an example of how, you know, I put my mind to something, put my energy towards it, and I've reaped the rewards of that particular goal. So I don't know if you've had anything that you can think of.
You know what, I'm getting a mind block when I think about myself. But I'm actually just remembering when we were younger, a friend of mine, to cut a very long story short, we were on holiday, and, you know, on holiday, he was trying to impress this girl, basically. And then he was like, oh, you know, I'm a fashion designer, giving her all the talk. And then afterwards, it's like, right, you're not. But he goes, no, I am going to be like, that's what I'm working on. Fast forward now, this was like maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. And his fashion label is doing bits. I'm not going to say it now because I don't want to kind of make it seem but he's doing bits, put it that way. He's doing bits. And everything, the same name that you had then, he's got the name now. Everything that he said, like couture fashion, like high-end fashion, everything he said has happened. And he was basically speaking it. You wouldn't have not believed him. Like, I believed him, and I knew he wasn't telling the truth. Do you know what I mean? When he was talking to the guy, this, we do that in France, like Fashion Week, all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, so he kind of willed that. I feel like he willed that into existence. But again, he had to work for it. It's not like he just said it and he sat down and waited for the bus to come and jumped on that bus. You know what I mean? So he said it. I think in the book they talk to it about, it's like mental rehearsal. You know, how your thoughts can become experiences, and then it tips into neuroscience and stuff like that. So I definitely, even like with my business, with what I do, you know, we had a conversation before I started with FFLY Youth, and I was like, I want to make an impact, you know. And then even now, when I think about it more, I always talk about my two youth workers when I was younger, like Rick and Ola. I just wanted to have an impact on someone the way they impacted me, and that was like my ambition and my goal, and I've done that, like, you know, and I know I've done that, so I'm proud of that.
100 times over.
Yeah, but the point is, it's like that thought it manifests itself in a thought, but then you work towards it. And then as well, jumping over to another book that maybe we should read down the line, because it's the Celestine Prophecy, and in that book it talks a lot about coincidences. I think it's called positive coincidences or something like that. Yeah. So what that basically means is one thing, like a coincidence, that leads into another thing, which all of a sudden it's like, rah, this thing was all linked all along. Do you see what I mean? So you might have decided, oh, you're going to set up a business. This is the business I'm going to set up. And then you're walking down the street and you see someone who you haven't seen for 10 years. And then just so and behold, the business that you're providing is exactly what they're looking for at that moment in time, or they can help your business elevate, something random. And these sort of, and that all, I feel like the thought, you set the intention from the offset, which kind of leads down, and we go into the energy talk, and we talk about all the kind of atomic fields and stuff like that. So yeah, but it's hard. It's really hard to get your head around. But so
100%.
Yeah, agree on
the book also talks about like routines, and how routines can impact our life.
Before you jump ahead, sorry.
Go on.
Because there was a note that I put here, and this is where they start talking about the brain side of things, and I think like how you can trick your brain or your body, or you can make your body believe something. You know, like there's a study that they do sometimes where they get you to imagine eating M&Ms. So let's say me and you, do you know about this study?
No.
So they'll be like, so it'll be me and you, and they'll say, all right, Tyler, imagine eating M&Ms. So imagine you're sitting there now, imagine eating the M&Ms, imagine you eating it, going down, there you go, imagine. But me now, so you imagine eating it for 20 minutes. Me, I'm not doing nothing. Now we'll both go down and sit down and put, and they'll put a pack of M&Ms in front of me, a pack of M&Ms in front of you, and you'll feel fuller quicker because your body thinks you've already eaten.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So what that means is the point of that is when you believe something, your body and your things inside you start behaving as though it's actually true.
Yeah.
So that's how you can. So going back to my friend with that example, when he's kind of telling the girl about this, he's carried in his mind, I'm a fashion designer. So the way he's even standing, he's projecting that image of a fashion designer or whatnot. And this is kind of how your thoughts can impact things around you or reality in that moment in time. Yeah. So I mean, there's lots of examples. Lots of study in the book. They talk about
with the finger
playing pianos. The pianos, the left-handed piano or something like that.
Yeah. Let's touch on it.
Do you remember the study?
So there was they were testing finger strength, and I think they had 3 groups. One group would do finger exercises specifically to build up their finger strength. The other group would visualize these finger exercises, so they wouldn't actually do any finger exercise. They would just be visualizing the fact that they were doing it. And the third group did no finger exercises. And what they found was that even the group that did no finger exercise didn't improve their strength. Obviously, the one who did do the exercise improved the strength, but the one who did no exercise and only visualized for however long it was, I think it was 6 weeks, I can't remember. They did no exercise at all. They just visualized it every day or however often they were supposed to. And their finger strength also improved. Not quite as much as those who actually did the work, but close enough, which, it just kind of shows the power of visualization. Because I mean, there's loads of stories about, people visualizing themselves back to walking if they've had a serious injury and maybe the doctors told them they can't walk again, and people really deep their mind and get through those scenarios. So I definitely think it has its place, man, 100%. So I thought that was interesting, man, proper interesting. So what about the routines? Because this was what I liked, one of the things that I liked. And one of the key notes I put down was the same routine leads to the same reality. Yeah. So if you're always, in a narrow mindset, you're doing the same thing every day, then you're the same. You're gonna get the same outcomes. The same outcome. Whereas I think someone needs to hear this. Someone needs to hear this. Doing the same thing over and over again. What's the quote? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is madness.
Insanity.
or it's crazy. I can't remember the quote, but it's something like that.
Definition of insanity.
Yeah. And I don't know if you had anything on routines.
No, I mean, your routine is really important. As you know, what you put in and what you put into your mind, what you put into your body, what you put around you, kind of thing. Because it all goes into like your subconscious. And I think here again, what I did like about this is it always goes back to the science. So it talks about like neurons and stuff like that. And like, 5% of the mind is conscious. The remaining 95% is subconscious. So it's running an autopilot. So if you're going, so you have to break the habit, you know, and it's simple stuff. Like, I think when you're kind of aware to it, it's simple. Because if you want to go to bed early and you think, all right, you know, I keep going to bed late every night. What, you know, you study yourself and you observe yourself and be like, all right, well, I'm on my phone till this time and I'm eating at this time and I'm drinking a cup of coffee at this time. That's maybe not the best routine if you want to go to bed early. So all you need to do is change that routine. It's quite simple. So, and again, you need to kind of change.
The theory is simple.
The theory is simple. The practicality is not as simple, but it's still possible. And it's not supposed to be easy. But yeah, no, definitely your routine. But I think your whole environment will kind of sometimes leads to what your routine is the product of that. Or that, you know, you're the product of your routine at the end of the day. So if you're like, oh, you know, I wanna study and I wanna go to university or whatever, or I wanna set up a business, you need to kind of formulate a lifestyle that kind of relates to that, as opposed to, oh, you know, I wanna do this, but then you're staying up to all night on your computer or whatever. If that's not kind of, if you want to be a e-sport specialist and be great on e-games and stuff like that, then maybe that's the right thing to do, playing computer all night because you're practicing. But if you're trying to wake up in the morning to do a dissertation, maybe it's not the best thing to do, or whatever it might be. So yeah, routine is definitely important, man, because it sets you up. And I think for me as well with routines, I like being in a routine, and I'm more productive in a routine because it's less, you know, it's more structured and whatnot. So, you know, I agree on that one.
Yeah. We're gonna go on to. I'm going to drop some gems later in terms of creating a routine or creating a new habit, because the book talks about habit, but let's save that for the end. What I wrote down here was psychologists say that by the time we're in our mid-30s, our identity and personality are fully formed. And I thought that was quite interesting, because when you're breaking the habit of being yourself, due to the book title, it's you know, by the time you're in your 30s, you've kind of already formed who you are, according to psychologists anyway. And it's a bit more difficult to then break the habit of being yourself. For example, if you've had 20 years of suffering, you're stuck in that autopilot, you're stuck in that zone. It's all you know, it's all you're used to, it's all you're associated with. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that.
No, that's fine. You know what? Again, bringing it back to the science, what he talks about, which is, I knew a little bit about this before I read the book, like neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to learn new things. How do you put it? The brain's ability to rewire and create new circuits at any age. So, perfect example. You know, when I think about this, I think about me in boxing. You know what I mean? I think, and even maybe yourself as well. So, or just basically learning a new skill, something. So, as you get older, it's harder. I think, is it 27? I feel like 20, your brain kind of, it's harder to learn something totally new as you get older. When you're younger, your brain's a lot more malleable. So the way they kind of define it in the book is like, when you start doing new things, your brain creates these highways. So when you're younger, the highways are empty. Anything can go down there. As you get older, bushes and trees and weeds and stuff start growing in the way. So it's harder to get through. So you've got to kind of chop it down. That's why it's harder as you get older to maybe learn to play an instrument or learn a new language. It's not necessarily, it's not impossible, but it's harder. But the brain has the ability to learn new things. So that's again with the routine. If you smoked for the last 20 years, yes, it's a habit and your body and all that kind of stuff, but it's possible to set a routine up or to set a habit or to learn a new habit and stop yourself. You know, if you whatever you're struggling with, whether it's even like social media or whatever kind of things you might be struggling with. So it is possible. And that's scientifically proven. That's one of the things I did like about the book. It also talks about it talks a lot about the brain, like the frontal lobe. I think it puts it down as that we've got 3 brains: the thinking, the doing, and the being brain. So those 3 brains, and then you need to kind of prune your brain, which is out with the old, and then sprouting, which is in with the new. So that's learning and unlearning. Do you know what I mean? So it's that was, like I said, the whole stuff about the brain and neuroplasticity was really interesting, but it might not be that interesting to some people. But I enjoyed that because it's like, okay, when I look at myself, when I started learning new skills, like I said with boxing, that was like a whole new, it's like learning to walk as a child. I mean, it's like a whole new thing, and then it actually becomes part of your nervous system. You know, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but sometimes when I watch boxing on TV, I react like, and I don't even know why. Like, I'll be like, what's wrong with you? But it's because it's like in your nervous system. And I remember one of my friends that when I first started boxing, like he was helping me out. He was like, that's why things like drilling are so important, because you need to get it into your system. And really, what you're doing what he said to me was, you got to get this into your nervous system. So what he was really saying was, we need to kind of make this, we need to use neuroplasticity. We need to get this into your, we need to build those cells or those connections in your brain. So it's that, for me, is amazing, because you can learn a new language like at any age. It might be harder, but it's still possible.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do anything.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. What I wanted to talk about as well. So we spoke about how your brain can impact your thoughts and the things that maybe you want to achieve, visualizing the future and impacting the present and the future just by thought alone.
Yeah.
What about in terms of impacting our physicality? How can the brain, or do you think, just by thought alone, we can impact our physicality when
you say physicality, what do you mean?
I mean, so let me give you an example. Yeah. So they talked about, there was an example of diabetes. They had two groups, and diabetes, the insulin levels deplete. You need to replace the insulin so that you can use the glucose for energy, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. What they got was, they got two groups of people with diabetes. One watched a boring lecture in an hour seminar, boring. One watched a comedy lecture, so they were laughing or whatever in the hour. And what they found was that the group who watched the comedy, their blood sugar levels rose half as much as the ones who watched the boring lecture. And that was just simply based on what they were doing at the time. They were all still sitting down, but their emotions in the comedy changed their physicality. So I'm saying, do you think there are, other examples of how your mind can change your physicality?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. For example, they gave an example about, if you kind of imagine eating, you might start to salivate, saliva. Do you know what I mean? So your brain can definitely activate things in your body. Do you know what I mean? It's like when they look at your pupils dilate, you think about certain things, X, Y, Z. So, you start, and again, which was talking about, definitely. They even spoke about like trauma and stuff like that. So the thing with us is, we can, I think the example they gave was like a gazelle that is getting chased by a lion or a tiger.
Yeah.
Once the gazelle's free, if it makes it and it runs away, 2 seconds later the gazelle back eating the grass, whatever. It doesn't relive that trauma. It's made it and it just moves on. Now, physically, the body is free of those negative emotions as well, like the gazelle's body. Now, with us as humans, because we can relive trauma. So if we went through something in our past, as long as we keep reliving it in our mind, we're still actually experiencing that trauma. So our body, you might be uptight or whatever it might be, your body. So the answer is the short answer is I think it's it has its positives and its negatives, because you can think of a positive experience and you can start to, you get goosebumps and definitely. What do you think?
100%. I think that was a good example as well, because I think as humans, we can struggle sometimes to let some things go. And that was a great example in the book about the gazelle. Literally, as soon as it's out of this situation, boom, back to normal. Whereas as humans, sometimes we struggle to let things go, and using the power of thought can really help us to control our emotions and let some of those negative feelings that some of us might feel go. And I actually spoke about how stress can cause ailments within our body. If you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you're worrying, you can actually cause your body to be sick because of those fears and worries. And they flipped it and said, well, if you can cause yourself to be sick because of those thoughts and worries, what about can you cause yourself to recover from those fears and worries? And there was an example of a guy with warts on his hands. I think it was warts, something on his hand, I think. And he was stressed, and long story short, they got him to change his mindset and his mind plan. He took loads of medication prior to the change of mindset. Nothing worked, the warts were still there. But when they got him to change his mindset and reduce the stress and think about how he could visualize them gone. One day he went to sleep, next day he woke up, they were gone. And I was like, huh? In one day?
It's that simple.
It's that simple, according to the book anyway, which sounds a bit mad, but the fact that he managed to change his thought process and then that happened, it's like, that's mad.
Remember Tyler, you know, at some parts it had me, at some parts it didn't have me. This was that's what I can say. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's hard to seeing is believing sort of thing. But I will say this though, it just reminded me of a situation. This was before we met actually. What injury did I have? I had an injury on my arm, shoulder. I can't forget what it was, right? And then I was going physio. I used to have this sensation in my hand. My hand used to always be numb. Always be numb. My fingers were numb for like a while. I was going physio. I thought I had nerve damage or whatever. So anyway, went there. They gave me some exercises to do, and then she was like, "Oh yeah, come back in 2 weeks. Make sure," you might laugh at this. It's like, "Make sure you do these exercises." Da, 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 da. I was like, "Yeah, cool." Then I remember I did them for the first couple of days, and then I stopped doing them, right? Yeah. But then when I went back last time, I remember talking to my friends saying, "Oh, no, like my arm feels better. Like I'm better. Like it's better." And then I went back 2 weeks later, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you've been doing exercises." I was like, "Yeah, it feels better." So I don't know whether I kind of felt like I was just making myself better, like I was believing that I was better, so I was better. I don't know if that's a pseudoscience, but that's kind of just whether that kind of relates to that. But I remember going back to the physio. "Oh yeah, it's really improving." Like, I was like, "Yeah, man, I've been doing exercises." But I would remember talking to my friends saying, "Yeah," and I'm like saying it as though it was true. Like, "Oh yeah, my arm's better." Like, "No, don't worry, my arm's fine. It's fine." Yeah. So kind of, I don't know. So similar. I don't know if I can make warts disappear. I've got calluses on my hands, and maybe I can make them disappear. I don't know.
What about this one then? This one again, a man who had cancer. They mentioned in the book. Again, he tried lots of different medications, tried therapy, chemotherapy, all of that. The cancer didn't go, and then after he had some self-reflection and realized, okay, what's causing the cancer? Is it stress? Is it worry? He had some self-reflection. He changed his mindset into a more positive mindset, into a more willing, positive outcomes, like what we spoke about earlier, visualizing positive things. And his cancer went and didn't return.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's that simple, why isn't everyone doing it? Like, it's...
You know what, T, yeah? I'm not gonna sit here and say that that didn't happen for that person. What I believe is, I do think the mind has power. I'm not gonna turn away from that. I do think the mind has power.
Yeah.
Do I think that was the sole factor? Honestly, if you gun to my head, do I think that's a sole factor? No. Do I think it might have been a contributing factor? I'd say yes.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not gonna argue against it. But do I think that was the sole reason? I don't know if it's that simple. I don't know. Maybe that person, they might have maybe they kind of really dialed in on a different level. Because again, it's one thing just saying these things, and it's another thing believing these things. You know what I mean? So going back to the original part at the beginning about emotion, you have to be emotionally invested into these things. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, if it's true for that person, then they're, you know, not lucky them, but you know what I mean? If it's true for them, I'm not. But for me, I'd say it's a contributing factor. I wouldn't say it's the sole factor, but do you know what I mean?
Okay.
This book's, it's like, there's definitely
there's elements of it.
Belief. Yeah, you have to really believe in it and really kind of buy into it, and you know, and a similar sort of things I felt with The Secret as well. Like I said, but where this kind of goes that step forward is with the science talk. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on it?
No, I thought that was mad, and I think I believe it. When I deep it, I think I believe it. However, it's not just a quick thought. That it's like, it's like you really have to put your whole energy, everything into doing that for it to come. It's like, or should I say, I believe it to an extent. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not a quick thing like, oh, visualize, okay, I'm going to be a millionaire, or visualize, okay, cool, I'm no longer going to have cancer or whatever. But potentially, I'm not saying it could work for everyone, but potentially if you go through the process, you visualize it enough, there's definitely in my opinion, some truth to it or some benefit to it. You know, because it's like the placebo effect. You know, you give someone a tablet and tell them they're going to get better, and they get better, then it's like, okay, well, actually that tablet did nothing for you. You just thought it was doing something, and now you're better. So clearly that's something else. I want to give an example, an actionable example that people can use, because I like this story because it spoke about a guy who didn't like his mother-in-law. So for anyone out there who doesn't like a family member or someone that they have to interact with through their network or through their family situation,
at work,
or at work or whatever, because it spoke about the guy. He didn't like his mother-in-law. Every time he went there, you know, she would chat rubbish or whatever. But before he went, he used to always preempt a negative situation. So he would always be thinking, oh, I'm going to go there. It's going to be a horrible conversation. She's going to say this, that, and the other. And when he started to change his thought pattern before going, he noticed that the outcome started to be different. So he started to think, actually, I'm going to go there. Today's going to be a great day. We're going to have a great conversation, and we're going to enjoy the evening. And when he really started to actually think about it in a positive way, rather than putting it like, oh, I can't bother to go, thinking, actually, no, I'm really excited to go. Let's see what's going to happen from this time meeting. Maybe we're going to have a great conversation. When he started to think like that, he then started to enjoy his time going. And I thought that is actually quite actionable, because there are some things that we might not enjoy doing, or people we might enjoy talking to. But if we essentially trick our mind into thinking that we're going to enjoy it, it can help change our experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And I thought that was
no, that's a good point. And but then again, what that shows is, and this is something that I think as a person, I grasp this at times, but I don't grasp it as much. If I heard this all the time, then I'd be in a different place. But it's like, we don't realize how powerful we actually are in the moment. Like, so that person's basically in control. You know, in that example, the guy's in control because of the energy he's putting out, or because of the vibe he's putting out, or whatever you want to call it, the atomic field or whatever. So if we're kind of aware, if we're always aware of that, you know, we kind of lose that self-awareness at times, that you can actually dictate, even if, and I think I've seen you do it before, where someone's kind of trying to project that negative, trying to put something on you, and you're just bouncing, it's just bouncing off you. Just bouncing off you, and all of a sudden you just kind of smile them to surrender. Do you know what I mean? So, but sometimes we get, you know, we're humans, we have emotions, you know what I mean? So we've got egos, whatever. So sometimes it's like, it's hard we forget that, and we forget who we are, and we forget the power that we have. So that's a good example, and that's something we should be mindful of. Remember, you know, I say this to some of the boys that I work with, and it's like, oh, this teacher, you know, he does that and he does that, and you know, where like the kind of the relationship I have with these boys is like, I'm not a teacher, I'm an adult in their life, I'm like a youth worker, mentor, whatever to them. So it's like, I have a different relationship, and they're going to be more open to me than they would to a teacher, and even maybe even their parents. So, and I'll be like, listen, man, I know some teachers, the fact of the matter is, some teachers, not all, there are some teachers out there that are not good teachers, and not even good people, that are maybe, I want to say, they're kind of out to get you. You get a label on you from school, and then that label, you never lose that label, whether rightly or wrongly. So it's like, I say to them, listen, you can't really affect if that's not what the teacher's trying to do to you, or trying to bully you, trying to victimize you, whatever, all you can do is, you can talk about it to your parents, you could try and battle it in the school, but in that lesson, you just have to kind of just be your best self. And then eventually that's going to win him over, or eventually, or what he's trying to do to you is not actually going to impact you, because it will be apparent now that he's done with the problem to people around you, other teachers, other students, X, Y, Z. But it's very hard. Even for us, like as a grown man, like if you go somewhere and someone's victimizing you and dealing with you in a certain way, you can try and kind of override them, but it's hard to remember. That's just me, that's myself anyway. It's hard to remember.
No, 100%. It's like, it's easier said than done. The theory is easy. The reality of doing it is a bit harder, but you can try it. all you can do is try it and see the impact or the effect that it has. I also wanted to talk about creating a new habit, because it talks about associating sounds, and it talks about you mentioned it earlier actually about when we're talking about food, and you could start salivating, etc. And it talks about how someone in the book trained their dogs every time they hit the bell. It's time for dinner. So the bell rings, the dogs know dinner's coming, and they're excited to get their food. So even when there's no food and the bell rings, the dogs start salivating and start thinking, oh, actually, I'm about to eat, but they're not going to eat. So this is a great way to form a new habit in terms of whatever it is you want to do. If it's like going for a jog, there might be something that you can associate with going for a jog to help you formulate that habit. As well as things like the habit loop, which involves here's some gems for you all. The habit loop involves 3 key stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the thing that triggers you or prompts you to take part in the habit. And we want to try and make this a strong cue. The routine is the habit itself. So like I said, it might be going for a jog or doing your homework or whatever. And the reward is the satisfaction that you get from doing it. So that might be the internal reward that you get. Oh, yes, I've got the sense of achievement. I did it. I went for a run. I've completed my homework. I feel great. Or it might be an external reward that you give yourself in terms of, okay, today I'm actually going to treat myself to a chocolate biscuit or whatever. So those 3 stages are sort of the basic or entry levels to forming a new habit. So if you can use that habit loop as well as an associative sound, you're more likely to adopt a new habit. So little gem.
I feel like with the sound, associative sounds, how would you implement that? Say I wanted to start, what would I do if I wanted to start running, for example?
You might have a song. You might have a song that you can relate to.
Got you.
So there might be a specific artist or whatever. I think every time I hear that song, or before I go for a run, I'm gonna put that song. That's gonna get me to go. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny, right? It's funny you said that. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like one of my friends that I train with, speaking to another day, and he was like, he goes running every day, not far, but he runs anyway, which is good, right? So he was like, oh man, I wasn't gonna go for a run today. Then I was like, Ray, you know what? Yeah, he goes, music's mad. I was like, what do you mean? He said, I was just on YouTube in bed, and I had my running stuff on, but I wasn't gonna go. It was raining. Then I just put on one song, and then it just gave me energy. So I just went for a run, and that's mad. And I was laughing. I was like, but it's true, And another thing as well, which I'm glad you reminded me, is this book made me realize about your emotional state, or your state is what I've referred to it as from stuff I've learned in the past. So, and what you can do, or what I used to do before a lot, is if I'm in a bad state, not like a state of if I'm in a negative state or a low state, I'll just be like, I'm just gonna ride this out. I'm just gonna ride it out. I know I'm feeling low right now. I think we always have conversations. I'm just gonna ride it out until it's over. But now with things like music and other things, I know that you can actually change your state with movement, for example. So you can just put on a song that makes you that you like, whatever song you're feeling at that time or whatever. So it's like, that's a way now as well with, with my friend, what he was doing, he changed his state without knowing it. He just was listening to music, and then that music just activated him and got him up moving and made him go out for a run in the rain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's a way that we can, this is again, when I'm talking about the power that we have, this is like, you don't have to be low. You can just make yourself high without, do you know what I mean? Not literally high, but like, you know what I'm saying? You can just turn yourself around and be like, you know what? I'm down. Like right now, there's a tune I'm feeling right now. Movado on the Rock. I've been blazing that tune. I don't even know why. I just heard it again the other day. But it's like, so I know now there's been got a lot of stuff going on now. And so it's like, certain times like, no, I'm not today. Where's that tune? I'm blazing that tune. So again, stuff I've done in the past, and then this book kind of reminded me of that. It's like, Ray, you know what? You can change your state. Like, you don't have to sit there. You can just, and it's gonna pass, but you can kind of shoot that on a little bit further. So So it's like that, So
no,
cool, man. That's good.
No, definitely. I mean, one of the things we haven't even touched on with the book is meditation, because it talks about all of this processes, all of these changing your state leading into meditation. And if we meditate and we start to, if we start to meditate, we can start working on our mind and how we can actually use our minds to control our outcome, to control our body, etc., etc. And actually, this is the first book that, I mean, you can finish it in a month. We finished the book in the month, as we're doing with our 1 book a month challenge. But there's actually a 4-week meditation journey at the end of the book. So when you get to the end of the book, there's a 4-week process that it kind of encourages you to do, which I don't know if I'm intrigued to do it after reading the book. I don't know if I'm intrigued to do it. But I think that's because of where I am right now with my personal state. If I was really in, maybe if I was depressed, or if I was down, or if I felt unhappy or whatever, I think this would be a perfect timing for me to give that a go. But I think where I am now, it's like, okay, like I've got the things that I do that help me already. I don't need to necessarily go through that. But I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before we move on to our difficulty rating.
Not really, no, not really.
Okay, cool. Because I am going first for our difficulty rating. we always forget who goes first. And I'm going first. So difficulty rating, was it difficult? It wasn't crazily difficult, but it wasn't like a free-flowing, smooth, easy read. So I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 2.5. It like the text was big enough. The text was big. There was lots of paragraph, like subsections. So I wasn't reading a chapter for ages. You know what I mean? You could take breaks quite easily. But I didn't feel like the flow got me. I wasn't captured in it at all, really. There were some sections that I really enjoyed, but I wasn't captured by a free-flowing period of the book. So that's mine, 2.5. Difficulty rating for you?
Difficulty rating. I've been toing and froing with this one. Similar to you, it wasn't a hard read. It wasn't necessarily easy. So I feel like I'm on a 2.5 as well. It wasn't a hard, even saying that, considering how scientific it was actually quite easy read. For me, it was actually quite, when you think about, neurons and particles and atoms and that kind of stuff. So, but then the writing style at times didn't really enjoy. 2.5, man. For average, in the middle, not hard, not easy, slap bang in the middle for me for difficulty. Yeah,
okay, cool. And star rating, I'm interested because, star rating for me, there were parts of this book I don't want to say parts, there were points in this book that I really liked. But overall, it wasn't one of my most favorite books. I'm going to give it, again, a 2.5, I mean, I think if I was in a different space in my life, this could be for the right person a 5. But I think where I am, 2.5. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Boy, cool. I'm gonna be short on this one. I didn't enjoy the book really. I enjoyed parts. Didn't really enjoy the book, but again, it's more, and you said it right, it's about where you are in your life. I think for the right person, because as well, the feedback that I got from people like, that book was life, it really did this and that, life changing, all that kind of stuff. And the title alone, how to lose your mind and create a new one. I was like, I like my mind. That's what I was like. I like myself. I like the habit of myself. So I don't feel like I'm who this book's targeted at. There are elements, obviously, no one's perfect. I'm not trying to sound perfect because I'm not. But it's like, I don't feel the need to want to lose my mind and create a new one. I like my mind, and I don't feel the need to break the habit of myself. So it didn't really relate to me on that. I enjoyed the first 7 chapters. You know, the first 7 chapters about the brain and about the atomic field and about all that kind of stuff. Even we haven't spoken about it, like the gap between who you are and who you present yourself to be, all that kind of stuff. Really interested. After the 7th chapter, it just started to lose me. Because I started reading this book, I was way ahead. I only finished it today, and I must have finished this book. You know how long I was read this book. I've been on the last. It took me a while, man. So anyway, I say all that to say, 1.5 is what I'm giving this book.
Okay.
Because, for me, this is my own personal thing. For some people loved it, but I'm not going to read it again. Would I recommend it to? I recommend it to someone if I felt they needed it, but for me, it was like this. It was The Secret 2.0. But I just feel like it was. I don't know. I didn't really. It's weird. I like the science. 1.5.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So there you have it. A 2.5 from me. A 1.5 from Mr. Fly. Again, this is our own personal opinions. This is how we feel. What we got out of the book. It doesn't mean it's not a good book, because I actually think there are people that I know that would really benefit from this book. But for me personally, it didn't bang. Okay, cool. Next month's book, we have The Lean Startup. This is Mr. Fly's recommendation, The Lean Startup. I'm guessing
I'm just gonna reach over there and grab my one.
But yeah, so The Lean Startup, it's the mandatory reading for entrepreneurs by Dan Health. If you can see that in the camera when it gets focused. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to reading this book, because have we read a business book? When's the last business book?
The last, I think it might have been Never Split the Difference.
Yeah, but that was more about negotiation. I don't know.
Yeah, but negotiation is part of business.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't a business book. It was a negotiation book.
Then maybe Gary Vee crushing it.
Yeah.
Would you say? That's the thing. To be fair, that's why I chose. That's why I chose this book, because I was like, this year I thought it's the new year. And we did speak about this a bit yesterday, off camera. We've done a lot about. I just found the last page I read. We've done a lot about mindset. So if you've been on this journey with us for the last year, you've done a lot of stuff about mindset. But I'm now thinking to myself, okay, if someone's watching this or coming across this channel and they want to, entrepreneur club, they want an entrepreneur. If it was me, I'd want a pathway like this: do this, do that, do that, do this. So this book was recommended to me a long, long time ago. And actually, I've had this book for a couple of years. I've read it, and I haven't read it. I've read it up to this page, because this is where I bent the page over last. So I never finished it. I'm not going to talk about it more. But anyway, The Lean Startup, how to start your business lean. What that basically means is setting up your business in the most kind of succinct way as possible, not to waste money and resources. So yeah, man, I'm interested. So let's get it.
Yeah. Okay. Wicked. So there you have it. Now, listen, support the thing. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to support the thing, and check out whatever video is on the screen now. YouTube thinks that you will like it. YouTube is suggesting that video to you based on your algorithm. That's right. Point that way, whatever it is. But yeah, check that out. Peace and love.
Support the thing.